Brought to you by Utah Sand Outlaws, JBL Vinyl, no, and Wicked Motorsports in Tooele, Utah. I forgot to mention my main sponsor that pays for all this, Horizon Masonry. Uh, Thanks, guys. I'll send you a bill again here soon. Okay, guys, let's talk about plenums and intercoolers. Intercoolers, I don't care if you put it under the seat. I don't care if you shove it up here or up front here. The one I've liked the most is up here from Impulse Turbos. Paul, he's a stud. He knows what he's doing. But regardless, I don't care where you place it. You need a fan on it that's pulling air. Otherwise, it's just a heat soak. Plenum. So your plenum in general, I've always liked the rule of thumb. Your plenum should be 3 times the size of the engine cc's. Well, they're cubic inches. However you want to go off it, just measure them the same. cc's, or cubic inches, cubic inches. But this one's 4.5, and it works extremely well. I like 2-inch piping, aluminum piping. Try and use as little silicone connectors as you can, obviously. And if I was duning, trail riding, that type of thing, and racing, doing it all, I would run intercooler with a fan always running. Okay. You can tie this if you decide to go to it with this style, which is a cone to a cylinder to a cone. It works very well. You can just bring this charge pipe and tie in like right here, but I like to run it clear back because anywhere you have a turn in your charge pipe, it creates heat, and the heat obviously stays in this pipe until it can cool. Okay, so a lot of my heat, most of my heat, honestly, is right here, and it comes in. There's a little bit of heat right here because the air hits that. If you are coming in straight here, hits right here, kind of turns, and then it hits up here. So when you feel the bike after a run, there's a little more heat here than on this side, and then it goes straight into the straight-on 3-inch intake. Okay, and I'm just telling you those examples right there where the heat is to reduce the number of bends in your charge tubes and stuff. That's why I tried to keep this pretty straight on, except for that one big 180. And the less sharp the bigger your curves can be, the better, the less heat. Obviously, it's just common sense, a lot of it. But anyway, so that covers that. You guys should be able to just design and build one that's perfect. Oh, guys, for hell's sakes, use an oil that is quality. Don't cheap out on it, okay? Get gravy. Down here, there is a line that comes out, and this is what gets sucked into your motor by the oil pump. That line, not the sump return, this feed line. Okay, take that off of the oil tank and clean that filter every once in a while. Cuervo, Daniel at Cuervo has videos on doing this. Guys, check out his videos on basic maintenance. Do basic maintenance on your freaking motor, okay? Check your valve clearances every once in a while. I check mine on every time after the dunes, but this is a hot motor. But just for hell's sakes, do maintenance. Clean your room, make your bed. I don't know what else to tell you. Let's get into anti-lag a little. And just so you know, the actuator on this, if I set it at 20 psi, I can make 20 psi with ease on anti-lag. So I can leave the line on full boost, on full power. If it works, that's why it's used in drag racing. That's the power commander. Like I said, we've figured out how to do that. well, I have, Packers have. I helped K&T get theirs going. Um, anyway, it obviously works. It works on the Raptors. The world record Raptor right now is a turbo, I guess. I didn't even know that, but it uses a Motec system, not PC5, but they use anti-lag. I like this, especially this turbo setup that I was showing you earlier. It works well everywhere. On the drag hill, um, trail riding, duning. I mean, you've seen some. If you've seen some of my YouTube videos, you can see me jumping this thing. Not this bike as is, but when I had just a duner. I mean, I've hauled deer out on it on a bike that would run 75, 78 miles an hour up Utah's hill. They're fun bikes. That's my recommendations. So unless I know I'm gonna need anti-lag, I don't even use it. And then, just so you know, that's harder on everything. I mean, your transmission. It's like leaving a line with a naturally aspirated bike, or a naturally aspirated bike with nitrous. My sponsor, Horizon Masonry, he runs uh, a big nitrous shot off the line. He's almost beat a triple on Utah's hill. He actually beats him, I don't know, half, 3/4 of the way up the hill. It's insane, and he leaves the line on that, okay? And he knows it, and he's probably giggling right now. Maybe, I don't know. Are you? But anyway, he knows that he's hard on these parts, and I know if I'm not leaving on anti-lag, I'm easier on these parts because my power curve or graph is more linear. Okay. Um, yeah, between shifts you're gonna lose a little bit of boost even with an override, but that's just because you're dropping RPM. You're gonna lose power on an NA bike too because you're dropping RPM. That's the matter of the fact. Yeah, for the heavier riders, the turbos are nice. You can go if you went to a hill with a 100 horsepower turbo bike, 100 horsepower NA bike, and ran them up a hill with a heavier rider, the turbo is going to prevail, just because the turbos love load and they're torque monsters. You race them, and these on the flats, a 100 horsepower NA bike versus a turbo bike on the flats, um, with a heavier rider or whatever, the NA bike's just gonna murder it. I wouldn't even build a turbo bike if I was going to strictly run like Glamis, where your run is so short and there's really not that steep of a hill. Um, it's just the big hills where like Nevada, Utah, where you need lots and lots of horsepower, and on the 4 strokes you need torque more than anything. It's it works very, very well. Um, I was gonna show you guys some whoa power to weight ratio, even with that stuff. Let's say you got a 200 and let's say a 270 good heck 70-pound bike, which I know you can get down to because this bike as is right here, since I added on that stupid little exhaust piece, is just over 330 pounds. Which I don't know if there's any turbo bike lighter than that. So that made me happy when I hit that number. This turbo kit's extremely light. Most turbo kits aren't that light, but it's like I said, I've done a lot to lightweight this thing, even though it's still a turd. But anyway, so 330. So let's say I'm only running 18 psi, and at our elevation corrected, it was 161 horse. Good heck. The highest horsepower 916 I've seen out here is 108 horsepower. At our elevation, wheel horsepower. So let's divide those. So 330 divided by 161. So we get a 2.049. then let's go 270 divided by 108. You're at 2.5. So that prevails by far. I mean, most of the bikes that are competitive out here are within like 0.1 of each other racing here. So so to even match that, this bike's gonna have to weigh, can I do math? I don't know. Divided by 108, or sorry, 108 divided by 2.5, 43 minus 270. Oops. So it's gonna have to weigh around 226 pounds to be competitive with this bike, if that makes sense. And obviously it depends on rider weight and bike setup. Bike setup is more important than all of that. If you can't set up the bike correctly, it doesn't even matter your power to weight ratio. So anyway, guys, food for thought. Think about what you're doing with your life.